Folks, after being drip-fed information for about a year, we finally have it. This is it, the Ford Ranger Super Duty. Basically the ultimate version of the Ford Ranger. Is it any good though? What's it like to drive? These are the questions that we're going to be answering today in this video. We have already done a bit of a technological deep dive into this thing, and so feel free to watch that if you want. But this video is more about how does it feel out on the road, out on the trail, and more importantly, should it be something that you should be interested in buying or not? Watch on. Let's hop in. Let's go for a drive. Just quickly though, here's a quick refresher on what the Super Duty range looks like. It comes in single cab, super cab, and dual cab flavor, and all are cab chassis models. A dual cab pickup will come in mid-2026. Prices start at $82,990 for the single cab, but bear in mind that the prices you see here don't include a tray. You'll need to add between $6 and just over $7,000 depending on body style if you want one of them. Now, the Super Duty is a huge deal for Ford Australia, and they're gunning really hard for commercial fleets with this one. Nevertheless, there's likely also a few private buyers out there who might be enticed by its ultra-rugged engineering, not to mention that huge 4.5-ton GVM, 8-ton GCM, and 4.5-ton tow rating. Ford gave us plenty of time behind the wheel, both on and off-road, and we were able to hop from variant to variant to see what the various option packages were like too. And as you can tell by the vehicles with the yellow nut covers, Ford really wants some of that mining money with this one. All right, folks, here we are. We're out on the dirt, which is the natural habitat of the Ranger Super Duty, at least as far as how Ford sees it. But, you know, looking at the thing with all that ground clearance, big, chunky off-road spec, all-terrains, yeah, it doesn't really belong out in tarmac roads. This is kind of it. How does it feel? Well, pretty natural. It's definitely handling this sort of stuff, which is your typical kind of fire access trail, nothing too gnarly. It's easy, like just going over these little drains there. There's never any threat of anything contacting the ground, and with all that underbody armor, even if that does happen, yeah, I'm not too worried. So we're kind of barreling through this. That's a bit of a steep one, but yeah, no problem. It's really easy to drive as well. Like, I'm getting bounced around a little bit, but I would actually describe this as reasonably comfortable. Whenever we're doing this sort of thing, I try to think of how I'd be feeling in another kind of vehicle. And when it comes to other vehicles that you could compare to a Ranger Super Duty, well, there's really one primary competitor, and that is, of course, Toyota's 70 Series Cruiser. And I'm sure most of you watching this will have some experience with that, and you'll know that that is, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 rungs up off an actual tractor in terms of comfort. So in that comparison, it's a no-brainer. The Ranger is definitely the easier thing to drive around and the more comfortable thing to drive around in this sort of environment. And that's really important because you have to keep coming back to the fact that this is a work tool. You don't want your workers to be fatigued before they've even shown up to the job site, wherever that is. So having this with admittedly pretty nice seats there, they're obviously trimmed in cloth, but I'm not going to hold that against it. It's pretty appropriate, isn't it? We also have vinyl on the floor, which is also, again, appropriate because my boots are quite muddy now. But yeah, right now this is pretty easy stuff. It's kind of steamrolling this kind of trail. Hopefully we will find something a little bit more gnarly soon. Yesterday we did do some gnarly stuff. Ford had set up this kind of off-road playground, which is kind of cool. Obviously specifically designed to showcase certain things like the approach and departure angle, the amount of flex that you can get, the articulation of the wheels and tires, which is apparently better than what you get out of a Raptor, but obviously a very contrived exercise. It's specifically constructed to flatter the car. The car did pretty well, it was impressive, but yeah, this is more real world driving that we're doing right now. This is a public track that we're driving along, but I do have to mention that while it's been really good out here on these off-road trails today, I have to mention we are doing it with no weight in the tray. And I think that's a little bit of a miss from the Ford PR team because they spent so much time telling us about how much weight this thing can take down a trail, but here we are on a trail and we are completely unladen, which is, yeah, kind of wish I could have seen the true extent of what this car can do. But the question that needs to be answered is, is the Super Duty the right 4x4 for you? I think that really depends on one main question, and that is, how much weight do you want to take with you? Because really, if the answer is not that much, well, considering the way this thing is priced, you might be better off in something like a Ranger Raptor. Yeah, you know, this as a dual cab with a tray on it is more expensive than a Ranger Raptor. And a Raptor doesn't have the issue of weak engine and all this mass to deal with. It's lighter, it's faster, it's a little bit more fun to drive when you're not on a trail. It's still as much fun to drive when you are on a trail. To me, I think if you're just like a light duty sort of weekend camper kind of guy, that's possibly the smarter choice. This thing, however, though, if you have a 4.5 ton towing requirement, yeah, your hands are kind of tied there. This is the only Ranger that's going to do that for you. But again, if you want to take heavy payload, you're not towing, but you are going out back for a while, and you want to bring a lot of fuel, water, all that heavy stuff to extend your trip as much as you can, then, or having that extra payload headroom in the Super Duty is probably going to be pretty attractive to you, and you'll see the value in that quite high price. You're also going to see the value in the extra durability of it. The underbody armoring is definitely substantial. The chunky axles, the big hubs, that 8-stud hardware that bolts those big old all-terrains, that's definitely going to be attractive to you long-distance tourers who like to find yourself in some pretty gnarly situations, but you also want to know that you can get home at the end of the day. Okay, we've actually found something mildly challenging. It's a pretty steep ascent, kind of rocky, but it is also dry, so I'm not expecting any real challenge here. It's generally the theme with the Ranger Super Duty. It's just nothing seems to really be a challenge. We're also doing this in high range. We're not even in low range. I haven't selected low range at all today. We're still going in high range, and here we go. We're just walking up. Yeah, I don't think there's many other 4x4s that do this kind of stuff with such ease. It's almost got contempt for the off-road, and this is all straight out of the box. This is factory tuned. That's the whole point of the Super Duty, is that you kind of don't really need to touch it. So I think if that is a good idea to you, if you're the kind of person who really loves to go 4x4ing, but the thought of digging deep into an accessory catalog to make your 4x4 more off-road appropriate just is a real turn-off. And also you hate the sort of, the hidden expense of doing that, not just installing stuff, but paying someone to install it, or paying someone to fix the problems that happen when you install some gear, because you all know that definitely happens. Well, maybe consider this. It is a pretty high price, but it is, like an all-inclusive price, if that makes sense. Okay, here we are. We've found a pretty steep descent. It's probably a good opportunity to kind of play with the trail control feature of this car. And we're just going to dial in our speed here via the cruise controls on the steering wheel. Set it to a fairly leisurely 6 kilometers an hour. And this is going to manage the speed as we go down this fairly steep grade. We're at 20 plus degrees nose down. So it's reasonably steep. It's not the steepest in the world, but it is a little bit loose. We've got some rocks underneath, and the car is just managing it great. It is actually pretty good to have all this electronic driver aid integration in the car, as it is with all the other 4x4 Ranger models. It just kind of makes your life a little bit easier when you're out and about. These kind of systems are actually pretty valuable in my opinion. And also they work so well, like just being able to activate your front and rear lockers just via the screen. It's easy. You can also, by the way, activate the front locker independently of the rear as well, so they are decoupled from one another. It works fantastically well. Also, we have the trail turn, and that's where it grabs the inside rear wheel when you're doing a full lock turn, and really sort of helps you do a tight turn when you're out on a loose surface, and really trim down your turning circle, which when you're in the bush, in a forest or whatever, that can definitely make a difference. Okay, so we got to do some on-the-road driving impressions as well. We can't just focus on the off-road stuff, even though that is the core of this car. How is it? It's actually not as bad as I was expecting. To be honest, I was expecting something that was a little bit more agricultural, given we've got a lot more rotating mass, heavier duty front and rear axles, big all-terrains as well. These are usually things that don't lend themselves well to on-the-road handling and refinement and stuff like that, but it's actually quite good. It's not that dissimilar to just a regular Ranger. We also have a slight difference in the final drive gearing, but again, it doesn't seem to impact too much the engine speed when you're traveling at certain RPM. So for example, at 100 kilometers an hour, it's doing probably between 1 and 200 RPM more than what a regular Ranger V6 does, which is about 1,500 RPM when you're cruising at 100. So it's pretty comfortable. It's not revving its head off. It's reasonably quiet. You do get a little bit more noise from that snorkel up there, as you do with any snorkel. Again, wish that we had a little bit of ballast in the back just to represent some kind of load, because that's what this car is all about, right? It's about carrying weight over distance, and we don't have any weight. So it's a little bit hard to give you an idea of how it's going to feel on the road when you have it loaded up with all of your gear, whatever that gear may be. But what I can say is that unladen, it drives pretty much just like a regular old Ranger. But there is one thing that you need to be aware of. This is a bit of a slug, all right? The V6 has 30 kilowatts less power to play with versus just a regular Ranger with the V6 turbo diesel. We've got 154 kilowatts of power versus 184 in the regular range, and you do feel it, and you definitely feel the extra weight. Depending on the specification, you've got around half a ton more weight to move, so you have more weight, less power. It's not the greatest combination, and as a result, you really do feel all of that mass, especially when you're trying to accelerate. And also when you're trying to turn, but definitely when you try to brake as well. You need a little bit more of a firmer press on the brake pedal. They have uprated the brakes. They are different to the regular Ranger hardware. So I wouldn't be concerned from like a fade point of view, but you just definitely need to have a little bit more pedal travel, a bit more pedal pressure in order to stop this thing. But the biggest thing is, a lot of you are gonna, especially have experience with the regular V6, you're going to hop in this thing and you're going to be maybe disappointed just by how sluggish it can feel. I've been driving this thing for the past 2 days, and often, especially at highway speed or getting up to highway speed, I'll just be flat, like foot to the firewall, just waiting for it to get up to speed. I did time it as well, 0 to 100, and for those of you who might want to know that number, it is 14.1 seconds. That is fairly leisurely. It's quite lethargic. So yeah, I know it says it's got a V6 in it, but don't expect performance because it simply has a V6. It is not tuned for that. It is not that kind of car. And that really does get magnified when you start towing. To illustrate that, let's go hook up a load and get back on the highway and see how we go.
All right, so we're out here on the Hume. We're doing a little bit of a tow test. We've got a scissor lift plus trailer on the back. The GCM right now is about 40 kilos, plus myself, and I've got a passenger with me as well. That's in the form of a scissor lift, and got a little bit of cargo in the tub too. It doesn't feel overburdened at all, and we still have just a little bit over 2 tons left of headroom in the GCM. So that's definitely confidence inspiring, but I wouldn't say that it's quick. It's pretty leisurely on the on-ramp to get up to 110. I tell you, I could have timed it, but I left my sundial at home. So yeah, not quick, but definitely feels up to the task of towing heavy weight. But yeah, I think there's probably better things for long distance highway towing than this, simply because there is so much inertia to overcome. But obviously, if you need to tow something that's up to 4.5 tons, yeah, your choices are limited. It will definitely do it, just do not expect it to do it quickly.
All right, so the big question is the Ranger Super Duty for you? Well, unless you're the fleet manager for a farm, a mine site, a construction company, or government agency, probably not. That said, if you're a real hardcore off-roader, it's likely something you'll really lust after anyway, and I don't blame you because it feels pretty unstoppable off-road. But is it worth the spend? A dual cab Super Duty with a basic tray is more expensive than a Ranger Raptor, and when it comes to having fun off-road, unless I really wanted to take heaps of weight with me, I think I'd probably get a lot more fun and enjoyment out of a Raptor. And a Ranger Raptor certainly wouldn't feel anywhere near as sluggish as the Super Duty does too. But which would you rather have? It's a tough call, isn't it?